Located on the shore of Torch Lake in the Copper Country lies the village of Lake Linden. Population 1,007 now, the town grew around the smelting and shipping of ore during the copper mining boom at the turn of the 20th century. But there is so much history prior to that into today.
Back after the fire, they had an ordinance passed that said all the buildings were supposed to be made out of brick and no longer wood, because that wood back then it was like kindling. The whole, like I say, 2/3 of the town actually burned down.
This is my new friend Jerry, a Lake Linden resident with a lot of knowledge on the place he calls home. He's talking about the fire of 1887.
There's a lot of rumors about that, but essentially it started in one of the buildings on that end of town that had an apartments and that in there. And they think it might have been spontaneous combustion, but they're not sure. But the problem was back then, you're talking about the 1880s, and they didn't have the fire equipment like they have nowadays.
And after that, the community had to rebuild. Jerry took me on a tour of some of the historical spots in the town, like the village hall.
They had another building that they used temporarily, and then they had this one built around the turn of the century. And it serves, of course, even today as the village office building. They have a clerk's office inside, a police officer's building inside. Upstairs there's a kind of like a ballroom where you could have a pretty good sized crowd. Yeah. In the 1950s and 60s, the kids used to have a teen center upstairs here where they'd have dances on weekends, things like that. And the other thing too, in addition to using it as the village offices and that sort of thing, on the side, the original building, you can still see the doors. That's the fire hall. That's where all the fire trucks are stored here in town. So, and then they're in the process of getting funding for a new fire hall, which is going to be built behind this one here.
In front of the building rests a monument we told you about back in November for our Veterans Special, the propeller for the Lady Be Good.
The story is not nice. It's a real tragedy, unfortunately, because those guys went through, well, the desert, the Sahara Desert, 100 degrees, 110, 120 degrees during the day. So they tried literally walking from there almost 100 miles through the desert back up to where the base was in Libya, and none of them made it.
One of those men was Lake Linden's very own Robert Lamott. Next, Jerry told me about a popular restaurant in the town, Lindell Chocolate Shop.
Believe it or not, was part of a brewery that we had in town. We had the Torch Lake Brewery, and later it became known as the Joseph Bush Brewery. He was a German that came over and started a brewery here in Lake Linden. And of course, this building was one of his main buildings. There's another one 2 blocks further up that was the bottling plant. So, and after that, of course, it got purchased by a gentleman that the family turned it into a restaurant. And then for years, this was one of the places in town, if you were a kid, this is one of the places where you'd kind of hang out. Come down and get a Coke and some French fries or whatever, hamburger and French fries, whatever. So, and then later, of course, it's been sold 3 different times now. The Geekus family actually owned it for about 25, 30 years. So, and they ran it as a restaurant. They made their own ice cream and everything in here. It was kind of a unique place. The booths inside look just like they did originally way back from the 1930s.
Another historic spot we looked at in the town is St. Joseph Catholic Church, where Jerry introduced me to Kathy, one of their parishioners with a wealth of knowledge on its history.
One of the reasons that the churches were so important up here is that they enculturated a lot of the immigrants that came to work in the mines.
And in this community, it was the French who came to this region to focus on lumbering. As it was coming to fruition at the turn of the century, a young priest named Napoleon Raymond was head of it.
He took on the debt. They had a debt of about $22,000, which was a lot of money at the turn of the century. So he took this on, and one of the things he did is he planned the church. He didn't have a builder. He allowed people to come in and build every day, and he paid them every day, cash, as they were going out. So he really controlled the church itself. The church is based on the cathedral there in Montreal. and very similar, very similar. As you can see, it's very fancy, but it's light. There is a lightness here which is unusual for a large church.
Whether Catholic or not, Monsignor Ramon became known to everyone in the community.
He built a Catholic school across the street, and in the basement of that particular building, he built a movie theater. It is called the Little Gem. And what he did is invited all the community, particularly the kids, to come in on Saturday and had movies for them. And if you didn't have a penny, he would stand at the door and give a penny. How do I know this? My husband remembers this quite fondly.
A fun fact Kathy told me was that he wanted to be buried here in the back of the church when he died, but the health department wouldn't let him. She says the church here in Lake Linden has changed over time, but is still thriving as it has from the beginning.
I love this church, and I love the people that founded it. You know, when you walk in here, you can feel that faith.
Reporting in Lake Linden, Rebecca Bartlemay, Local 3 News.